All right, evening everybody. It's 7:15, so let's get underway here. This is the Social Services Committee, Thursday, October 12th. My name is Derek Ohanian. I'm the vice chair, but I'll be as acting chair tonight because our chair, Olds Fry, is out this month. So why don't we call to order? We realize we actually do not have the physical quorum that's needed to be able to vote on any matters as a committee, but that doesn't stop us from being able to continue on with the rest of the agenda. I think the only voting matter we had was just the meeting minutes. So we can push that to November. Hopefully we have the quorum then and we can take care of that then, but we can continue to move on through the agenda here. I think the next item on the list here is public comment. So any members of the community here, if they have any public comments, or Jessica, if anybody's submitted anything via email, we can take those now.
I apologize. I didn't check.
No worries.
With our technical difficulties,
Yeah,
if there are any, I can announce them at the end.
Okay, no worries. I think we'll have another public comment at the end too. Okay. So let's move on to our discussion topics. So it is important to note that no votes will be taken this evening, regardless if we had a quorum or not. These are presentations and outcome updates from the presenters. And so our first presenters will be the Mental Health Task Force. I do believe, I just want to call out, I think, Jessica, you said you communicated with the leadership team that we're going to try and do things a little according to a time schedule this evening. I think the Mental Health Task Force has about 10 minutes to present and then 5 minutes for questions. Of course, contingency, if people want to continue the discussion, we can always be flexible, but just to consider those rules, parameters as you. But yeah, I'd like the Mental Health Task to give us their update and presentation. Hi.
So, the hot seat?
Yeah, it is.
It's a fun seat. It's not the hot
fun
seat.
seat?
Yes.
Thank you.
The honor seat.
Yes, it's honor.
Yeah.
Well, hi, everybody. My name is Cindy Castro. I'm actually the manager of Outpatient Behavioral Health Clinic at St. Francis Hospital, but here wearing the hat of one of the co-chairs of the Mental Health Task Force. We had a whole planning session today, so we brought drinks. We know it's going to be hopefully not too long of a meeting, but here are drinks for you all. So please feel free to grab some. And we really just appreciate having the time to come and share information that we hope will give you an idea of the struggles that many agencies face, and in turn outlining some of the gaps that we see in the community. Just really briefly background, the Mental Health Task Force has been together since March of 2020, so we got together because of the pandemic, so we were on layers. Command Center reporting out on mental health struggles or concerns or whatnot. And we just stayed together. At that point, we were between 19 and like 24 agencies being represented in the task force, and really just coming together to address the immediate needs. We did like a 90-day plan, and ever since then have stayed together to just develop different programs, different educational material, and recently just a lot of advocacy around the needs that we see in Evanston. For this one, we did talk to many partners, trying to get a little bit of their feedback so we can provide a summary of different needs that we see. We are mindful, and I'm also speaking because we're mindful that many of our task force members are actually grantees, so we don't want anything to be swayed in any way, so that's why I'm kind of representing the task force in that way. So we hope that, just here to answer any of the questions, pick our brains, and really just provide you with information. So we're highlighting about 4 different areas that we see a lot of the gaps in. One, it shouldn't come as a surprise, is housing. There is no affordable housing or non-existent here in Evanston, and that presents a struggle, right? If people come to us for housing, where do we send them? We have agencies that can provide some support, but there's nowhere to place them, really. So then how do we and that's more of a system type of, it's a bigger system across the U.S., but just something that, of course, I couldn't just sit here and not talk about housing, but even like with no year-round shelters here in Evanston has fixed something big. We have in the emergency room at Ascension, we always get individuals coming in just for shelter overnight because they have nowhere to go, and we won't turn them away. So sometimes they'll just be in our waiting area. So we are partnering with Connections to try to do some outreach at that point. And then a lot of people get told to come to our emergency room that they're going to 311, and 311 does not, because where are they going to take them? So that's one of the big things that we are seeing. In general, many of our agencies is just staff, not having enough staff. So we're reaching capacity very quickly because we just don't have individuals, and it's becoming harder to hire individuals because there's competitive salaries. And we are nonprofits and cannot compete with a lot of the private practice folks. So a lot of even individuals coming straight out of getting their master's are going straight into private practice. It's just so much easier than working at a nonprofit or a community base where there's all these paperwork requirements and kind of different things that we have to do. And then when I talk about staff, it's not just having the capacity, but also having bilingual staff. And when I say bilingual staff, it's not just Spanish speaking, but it's all the different languages, especially right now that we have a lot of asylum seekers come in and migrants. How do we have enough staff to be able to support that population? So that's really been something that if there was more money that agencies have to hire more, probably still be not enough because the need is so big. After COVID, mental health services just increased so much. And it's a good thing. People started knowing more about mental health and normalizing it more. So that's why there's more people coming to us, especially young, youth, because of remote learning and going back to in-person. And then, even when we talk about not just mental health, so we talk about early childhood, right? So there's also a lack of teachers that they have and not being able to fill those, or even having classrooms being closed because they don't have the teachers to be able to fill those classrooms. The other big piece that we see with mental health is psychiatry. There is, here in Evanston, there's a lot of psychiatrists in private practice, but not a lot of them come to work at nonprofits just because, once again, the pay. And the environment is so different than working in a private practice. We're dealing with vulnerable population, with very chronic population. So most of the time for the agencies to have psychiatrists, we're bleeding more that we have a psychiatrist because the reimbursement rate that Medicaid gives us is not enough for what we pay a psychiatrist hourly. So it's not that it's, a lot of people say, oh, there's a desert of psychiatrists. Like, no, there isn't. They're just going into private practice. So how do we bring that, try to be able to have funds to pay for salaries of a psychiatrist, and that way we'll be able to at least not bleed in our budget. A lot of nonprofits do not make money, especially mental health. So we're always providing the services knowing that we're not going to get the same reimbursement back. And in general, just being great to be able to have funding that's non-restrictive, because there's a lot of services that we can't bill for Medicaid, or there's people that don't have insurance, so who do we bill for? How do we cover those services or provide what we say free services if we don't have those funds? And even when it's non-restrictive, like funds to cover sometimes food, transportation, or different things that are not covered by somebody that are able to do that piece. So, and there's also, if somebody qualifies for Medicaid, there's a gap that they have from the time they touch with one of our agencies that can help them apply for Medicaid. How do we cover those services that we can't bill Medicaid because they don't have it, but we're still providing what we call sometimes very intensive case management services. Ella's going to be my partner to talk about the services, so she can come up.
Welcome.
So a lot of it is, it's just having funds that are not, and also when we say non-restricted is because there's so many things. If we get funds from Medicaid or from all these different pockets, there's all these requirements that come with that, right? And there's different line items that we have to cover, and that just plays a lot of stress on our agencies, and we sometimes don't have the capacity to even monitor those as closely because of the requirements, versus if we have more, I think it'll be like a weight off our shoulders to be able to say, hey, here you go, here's LustPass, here's this, because I know we don't have the funds to purchase that for them. And then the biggest thing that we have found is that collaboration is huge. Like many of us, I mean, even today, we've all been seeing each other for all day, and that's just because, all of our friends and, but we partner so much and we get to know each other's agencies and our programs, and we try, but there's a lot of changes with that. But how do we find out about what we each do to make better referrals, appropriate referrals, and more productive referrals, right? So something that I'm sure you guys all experience, we're getting to know the agency and exactly what they do, so you know what services they're providing, how the funds that you're giving them be able to, be utilized in an efficient way. So I think that's a lot of that we've all done with different projects, being able to work together, and that kind of brings us into like this wraparound piece that we're trying to implement. So the Mental Health Task Force has really worked for like a year and a half to implement this wraparound model, which is really, it's a lot of different businesses, but the easiest I can explain it to you guys is just one family, one plan, one system. And that's it. So we have eSend, which is gonna be the case management platform that the city has already committed to, and they're gonna be purchasing that platform for us. But now it's really developing this infrastructure. So yes, a lot of the stuff has done before, so we know we're all tired. Many of us have been working for more than 10 years here in Evanston, so we know that we've had these conversations. Evanston loves committees, so we've been in so many committees. So what we're thinking now is this is gonna be better because we actually have a consultant helping us build this infrastructure. And also, we're building the infrastructure and then looking for the funding versus the other way around, having funding to build something. So that way we know what funding we're looking for because we know how we're gonna actually lay it out. So Milwaukee has been amazing. They're the consultants that we have because they have a Milwaukee wraparound model, so they're the ones guiding us in this work. So yeah, there's just different components, but anything you wanted to add on?
Pretty awesome, and, we've been working really hard. I mean, today, like, those of us who were there, like, our brains are tired. We were really thinking a lot and talking a lot, am I right?
You're right.
It was a lot of brain work, but, like, reading previous grants that have been written, and I'm sure, like, there have been applications to mental health boards previously, where it's saying, like, this is what we'd like to do, we think it's a really good idea, so we'd like the funding for it, and then if we don't get the grant, then that thing doesn't happen. And so there were several grants that were, written very thoughtfully to try to get funding to create a system of care in Evanston, a comprehensive, cohesive system of care in Evanston. And then the grant didn't come through, and so, like, that wasn't happening. So we've all been doing the best we can, working in our lanes, but continuing to run into the gaps, and we think this wraparound will help us, like,
I think bring us closer together versus right now there has been a lot of different groups working together. So how do we work to actually serve all of Evanston versus we have specific groups that work with a specific population? We're trying to make sure that there's no wrong door, people if they go to District 55, they'll be connected to partners. If they go to Ascension, they'll be connected to partners. So all these different elements to it. So there's a lot of us that work in silos sometimes, and it's just because we're stretched thin. And we don't even have the time to sometimes sit and talk to our partners because we're just extremely busy. So we're hoping this with the eSense platform to be able to communicate in a better way, and have these, what we call, care coordinators, which is really facilitators to, walk with the family in the services that they need versus just being a case management where we're just giving the referral. Or the care coordinator will actually help facilitate and bring the, team players to the family. That's a lot of information. So definitely, open it up to whatever questions you guys might have. And, our expertise, we can.
Any committee members, in person or on the phone have any questions for the task force?
You know what I'm saying?
Councilmember Reed and Councilmember Burns participating on the
On the phone.
On the phone.
I actually have a quick question, just a little bit more on the, kind of the governance model of the task force. So you said up to about 24 agencies, I think, is the number?
Yeah, right now we have less, so this is
Okay.
a very unofficial task force, and when I say that, this is just a group of volunteers right now. Because
Okay.
we stay together after incident command is not happening, we're not under anybody's direction.
Right.
It's really just a lot of members representing different agencies coming together
Sure.
to support each other, and then see how we can partner with different things.
Okay, no, that makes sense. How do you prioritize what you want to work on or target?
At the beginning of the year, so we meet as a task force and decide what do we work on this year.
Mhm.
This year was advocacy, so that's what we've got to city council,
Okay.
social services, we've talked in the past of just advocated, and wraparound has been our biggest thing right now. And that just came out of a conversation, what we're all noticing is happening, so we're saying, what do we really work on to make our work easier,
Mhm.
and kind of take some weight off?
Yeah.
And we decided on wraparound at
Yeah.
this point.
I don't know if it's gonna make the work easier. However, I was there this afternoon, because I couldn't make the morning section. And everyone is exhausted. Thank you guys so much for coming back around at 7 p.m. We're trying to find out in this operation how this wraparound service will look and feel and represent Evanston. Milwaukee has their system, which has been productive and progressive, and we're hoping that the conversations that we have challenge Evanston to also have a that is just as progressive and helping. The difference between what we have now and what they're striving for, and correct me at any time, is that we're having it so that case management and resources work with clients and families versus, as well as for them, but in an advocacy position. Not that they aren't doing that now, but in a holistic position. As you were saying before, Cindy, what'd you say, one platform?
One family system.
One.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the biggest difference, and there's still a whole lot more work to go. Because our next session is going to be talking about funding and money.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna see what some of those silo challenges are in the hopes that, we can find some new and creative ways to meet the needs of those who are here as well as those who are coming.
Councilmember Burns line with a call, or with a
Question.
Councilmember Burns?
Yeah, he raised his hand.
Yeah, somehow I got bounced. I don't know what happened, but so my question is, up until now, what has been the city's involvement, particularly in the wraparound services initiative? And I think you said that the city has provided some funding, so I just wanted to get a better sense of the city's involvement and support.
Yeah, so the city right now, go ahead.
Did you wanna know the city's involvement in the mental health task
No,
force
in the
or in
wraparound.
wraparound?
No, and wraparound.
So right now, the city has committed, and this is through the Health and Human Services Department, to fund the eSense platform. So we actually just today are finalizing the contract with eSense, and the health department will take care of that piece of it. In terms of the wraparound in itself, we have been in conversations, the director, at our first launch meeting, we have 57 representatives. Most of them were the chief of police, the chief of fire, all the directors from the city departments were there, and, you know, different staff, the city manager. So they're definitely, you know, supportive of this model and want to see how the city can support a little bit more as we're developing the models, because it's really all of the partners developing the infrastructure. There has been talks on what role the city's going to take, with either having care partners or whatever other support they can do.
It definitely comes up a lot in conversation, like today, I was kind of moving between groups, and there was, one group, and we should say, like, we're building this process, so we have not made decisions on how it's actually gonna go. This is a process where we're working with the technical assistants from Milwaukee to build the system, and then we're gonna decide how to do it. So in one group, they were talking about the Health and Human Services Department, perhaps housing care coordinators, so that could be a city staff position. And then in another conversation, we were talking about, how wraparound can serve within the world of emergency calls. Like, if a 911 call is made, but it's really a mental health emergency, then how would wraparound be part of it? And another conversation was about 311 and how the 311 operators, they would want to be a part of all this so that they're aware of wraparound as one of the many, ways that we're supporting youth and adults and families and people. The lifespan, in Evanston. So the city's gonna be like super involved. They already are, and they're gonna continue to be, and then I think it's gonna like reach many different arms within the city. The idea is that everyone's gonna know what it is, and everyone's gonna kind of like recognize it, and know how to tap into it, and then work with the city and whoever else is a part of it to make the work happen that's gonna build on the strengths, meet the goals.
Other than the platform, because that is very kind of both tangible and concrete, can you provide other scenarios, more concrete scenarios, that kind of emphasizes different parts of the wraparound, vision that y'all have or that y'all are working on? Because again, the platform makes sense. If I come in, as you said, Ali, the other day when we were talking, it would be great if I didn't have to tell the same story over and over and over again to agencies that work in the same city, in some cases in the same facility. So that, again, is very concrete and understandable. Do you have any other examples this early on how this may play out in real time?
So right now, I think because we're creating that now, so the task force is not in charge of making those decisions. So these are our plans. So today was our first planning session. We have 2 other ones, so it's 3 total planning sessions. So at the end of it, we are gonna be left with 3 different models that we can choose from, and then we're gonna have to decide what model. So right now, I couldn't tell you what are the action steps, because this is what's being built right now, based on the feedback that we have for those that, come to our planning sessions.
So then even use Milwaukee, and I'm not, what I'm trying to say is if I'm a client, I get how a shared kind of software platform helps me. Using Milwaukee as an example, what is another concrete example that you can provide that that shows the kind of value of this new way of doing things from a client-centered standpoint, or somebody that is working with one of the agencies? And you could use Milwaukee as an example because it sounds like they're already set up there.
I mean, I can say, like, specific examples of wraparound family, like families that I'm working on a wraparound team with and supporting, that the city has been involved in, say, the amazing Maurice Wilkerson helped to get a family set up in a hotel when they're needing a temporary living situation. Or he helped to get, a partial payment for a security deposit because that's what's gonna put a family in a home. And then I have some amazing people in the youth and young adult division who are on some teams, like Demita's on a team, and Gennaro and Nathan in the workforce development. Like we've got people in the city who work for the city who are already part of wraparound teams and are participating, because we need workforce development so people can have jobs so that they can pay their rent. And maybe an security deposit goes off. So there's a lot of different ways.
I think it's not just the city. I think what Bobby says is with wraparound, you're gonna form a team around the family to help with the different things that the family needs. And that's different from what we're doing now, because right now, we're not doing it in that way. Some of us are doing what we call wraparound work, but not in the way that we have the facilitator actually taking charge and helping the family and making sure that whoever needs to convene to the table is coming to the table monthly and checking in on, hey, I referred you to this, how are you doing with that? How is, Connections doing with that? Because if it's 5 people that we're bringing to the team, then all those 6 players or whatnot are meeting monthly to really connect and say, what's working, what's not, and it goes back to the one family, one plan, one system, right? We're all coming back. Right now, that's not how it's working. Right now, it's us trying to get a hold of somebody here, trying to get a hold of somebody here, and we don't have the closing of the loop right now, because 1, we don't have the system. 2, we're not all working on vision and mission, and that's what wraparound is gonna do. We have a mission, we have a vision that everybody's gonna be adopting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I appreciate that. I think the wraparound teams is something else that stands out. So you have the platform, you have wraparound teams as the rule, as opposed to something that happens here and there. It becomes something that is more commonplace in Evanston. So that makes sense. Great. Yeah, I just wanted to at least walk away with one other feature of the program, which I have. So thank you, and good work to everybody involved.
Yeah, when we say one plan, all the providers are working off of one treatment plan, if you wanna call it that. Versus right now, if they're going to different agencies, they all have a different goal, and then we're all actually working under one plan.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to dream big and really look at Milwaukee as a model, we don't want to dream.
Well, we have enough, we wanna be mindful.
I just want to give one more example of something that Milwaukee has that has become part. I mean, if you look at their chart of all the services that they have, it's extensive. They have a 12-bed facility that is for kids, youth who need a place to go that either don't qualify for inpatient hospitalization, or that's not the right setting for them, but they can't be at home. And so it's a place where they're able to sleep for a period of time and get support that they need. It's part of a crisis continuum that they have. We don't have that here yet.
Keyword.
So that's a concrete example.
All right, well, thank you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I don't have questions, I just have great interest in seeing this develop.
Yeah, you're all welcome for a planning session with them.
I remember
Oh,
Oh, yes, I just want to say, I don't have questions either. I just want to say great work. Really excited to see this come to fruition. I know, um, I'm sorry, I may have missed the part about if you reported out on today's workshops and the outcomes of those, but really excited to see this work advance.
A work in progress. It's an iterative process. So the work that we did today was like trying to flesh out possible models, and we're gonna keep going, but we have not made decisions yet. Like, it's not, we didn't like decide on something to move forward. We're figuring it out, figuring out the funding, figuring out the policies and procedures, and then we'll go. Love to have you. Anyone can come. So, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for the presentation.
Wait, one more.
That was my,
Sorry.
no, you are fine. I have, just 2 points. Well, the first question is, what is your organizational chart gonna look like?
That's a good question. I did that yet. Like, that's part of what today was, yeah, we were
We're going
looking
from
at.
like governance, and then who's gonna be the backbone organization, and then the direct services piece of it, so that's all gonna be laid out once we have.
What are you gonna do with an agency, and Ally will tell you, I'm really big on action. So what are you gonna do with an agency or individual or whomever that is not doing the work? Like, they're not fully committed to the work. It just looks good for receiving grants or points from NAMI or whoever, the continuum of care, so forth and so on. What are you gonna do with those?
I think that was a conversation that we had today, came up, accountability, and who's gonna hold who accountable. I think that goes back to if there's gonna be, whoever's gonna be the backbone organization, making sure, because they're I'm not gonna decide what the model is, but the backbone organization will be the one kind of implementing the policies, the structure, the training. So I think that'll be up to that backbone agency to hold those agencies accountable and have those conversations. So right now, that's what we're trying to get the buy-in. So at our first launch, we had invited like about 60 partners, and that wasn't even everybody. But
60 as in 60?
60, we have 57 partners, we have 62 or 63 RSVPs. And these are executive directors, from the agencies who want to make sure everybody needs the buy-in. We want everybody all in type of thing, so accountability will be huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We
That's
had a big
good.
conversation.
Thank you. So when you're talking about, partnering, collaborating, those 2 words, we're talking about, and I just wrote down a few things: financial literacy and budgeting. We're talking about behavioral health, medical insurance, parenting skills, childcare, partnering with District 55 and 202, with the McKinney liaison, which I guess is Ally. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. You wear a lot of hats. Transportation, then some people need IDs, employment assistant, clothing, food, interviewing, resume. I'm just, again, naming a few, mentoring for the children. So there's gonna be a team that's gonna provide all of these different services and follow up and aftercare as well, for as long as the family.
That's the idea, and they're assessing that need, right?
Okay.
So that's why it's gonna be strengths-based and family-based, so depending on what that family needs, and it might be just the individual, it could be family, it could be an individual.
Yeah,
What do they need?
individual
Yeah.
household of one. It could be that, yeah.
So this is why these are very intense cases, so then we have to think about if we have care coordinators, what does the case look like? To work with, so that's partners, their expertise, so we'll be bringing those in to cover 10 different things that they need. Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your intake process gonna be?
I was gonna say, that's
We-
all part of,
to be determined.
what we're
But
developing.
there's like a visual that Easton's has in their, like, proposal for us, where it's like a funnel. And so the referral process, which is to be determined exactly what that is and what that looks like, will, have a open door from someplace for a family who will do an intake to ask what are their needs. Do they need childcare, mental health, an ID? Like, what are the things that they need? And then it'll, become part of this database system, where then it will ping, like, City of Evanston to help with the IDs, the Moran Center to help with the legal needs, Trilogy to help with mental health. Whoever it's gonna be will, become part of the team and this is all with the family's consent. And then the work will continue from there. There'll be a chronology of the case. There's an arm that goes to the family to like input their daily, if this is part of the team, what the team decides, like their daily mood, or have they completed the thing? Did they make the phone call to make the doctor's appointment? Like, all the above.
Okay,
There will be a leadership
Sidebar.
person. They won't be left alone. They're not just gonna say, here's the referral, go over there.
Mm.
The concept is that there will be a skilled person, key person that will continuously grow with the
A
family,
care coordinator, which is a
Care-
facilitator.
which will facilitate the family's
clear.
needs.
And if I could say, I love the interest and the buy-in. We thought that this would be a warm group, right? So I'm happy to stay in touch with the mental health task force. Kathy attended the meeting today. I've been attending meetings. I'm happy to bring information back to the committee.
Mhm.
We're happy to invite you back.
Yeah.
Right,
Come for a
right.
planning session.
So, yeah, we will definitely keep everyone.
Sorry, November 9th, December 6th are the next two.
All right, thank you so much for your presentation, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So now on to our, second, discussion topic for the evening, which is, FY 2023 Safety Net Program Outcomes and Updates. I believe we have 12, safety net service agencies or services who will be here to speak on a performance update from January 1st through June 30th of this year, so, first 2 quarters of the year. And I'd like to invite the first one up, which is Books and Breakfast.
And did you,
Yeah.
I, everyone, just to say again, that is a timer. The committee would love to hear from you and also, answer questions. I'm under the impression that the questions are really important from the committee.
Yeah.
But if you hear a chime, that's our 5-minute mark.
5 minutes.
You're welcome to go over, but do you want to provide a quick update, a quick review of the report? Yeah, so everyone does have this operations performance review, it's in the packet, there are hard copies available on the table, as people come in. So this is the model that the Social Services Committee reviewed earlier, where we're assessing outcomes, and so please keep in mind, number served, the percentage of Evanston residents in service versus the total population, and staff did try to tease out accomplishments and strengths.
Thank you for providing definitions too, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Would you like us to start?
Yes, please.
Ma'am.
Hi, everyone. So good to see you. My name is Kim Hammock. I'm the Executive Director of Books and Breakfast. Kyle Hannawalt, our new Development Director, so first time at the City of Evanston meeting, so glad to have him here.
Welcome.
First, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your support and your partnership in supporting Evanston students. We feel really good about the work we've been able to do this year, and a lot of that is because you are, and it really enables us to serve more fully. Our biggest points of growth this year have been in establishing 2 new pilots at 2 additional school sites, being able to offer programming at Washington Elementary and at Willard Elementary. Steps forward for us, and again, very much our mission, just to briefly say, we are wanting every student to be able to thrive in the classroom. We specifically partner with District 65, working with students that have been recommended to the program by teachers and by administrators who need additional support. Working with students in the morning to make sure that students can walk into the classroom fully ready for daily. In addition to that, we are also really innovating in our summer programming, and that's the other thing I'd just like to highlight for you. Again, because of your support, we were able to really build out a pilot in our summer literacy program. We're really excited about. This is our 2nd year doing it. In the first year, we saw 25 students see about 6 months worth of reading gains in 6 weeks of intervention. And we got a chance to go back and do it again this past summer and saw the same levels of growth. So in 6 weeks of working with 50 students, on average students gained 6 months of reading. about half of our students be able to grow so much that they entered this fall on reading level, starting the school year right on reading. I would say, just to highlight, again, the things that we want to continue to see grow. We want to be able to reach more students, we want to be able to reach more schools. We particularly want to invest in those 2 new schools that were pilots. We want to see their rosters grow to our full, kind of robust, healthy place of 30 to 35 students this year. We also really want to invest in that summer program, reach even more with that kind of intervention, so they come back in the fall ready to go. Happy to answer any questions. I'll just.
Anybody, committee members have any questions?
I have tons, but, I mean, the first question is, what are the demographics of the books and breakfast children?
So that's on the second page here,
I don't have it in front of me, I just want to hear you.
Sure. The vast majority of our students are scholars. 97% of our students identify as BIPOC. So last year, 25% identified as white Hispanic, 58% as Black, 5% as Asian, 8% as multi-racial. Predominantly students of color. We are, in our roster, 97% of our students are students of color, and 93% of our students, 100% are Evanston.
Are you, staffing 1 or 2 per school, or 100 per school?
Yeah, our staffing model is generally 1 staff person per site. At our larger sites, we have 2. It's about 1 staff for about 30 students. And we have an additional tutoring team that is volunteer, some paid through Northwestern, but generally volunteer, where we have an additional volunteer that will be working. Almost every student is getting one-on-one with an adult who also a lot of social emotional.
Who evaluates the books and breakfast staff?
Who evaluates this?
The books and breakfast staff.
We do internally in terms of have a supervisor, and we have reviews and thinking about whether the performance indicators. And then we evaluate our own program by looking at the vast percentage of our students gains in terms of home gains, in terms of and readiness for daily engagement, and what are parents saying. Those are our overall indicators for our school year program, but we have a pretty robust support system.
My students stopped that, what was that due to?
How do you want to handle it in terms of stops?
Yeah, so for us, every student that, once you're invited into our program, even if, you qualify, we actually hope that over the time, as we were through 8th grade, that your life circumstances have changed. That doesn't mean that you fall out of our program. We work with families, and so once you're with us in your entirety of time with, District 65, as long as in the schools that we're in. And we also work with, siblings, so if you had an older sibling, your younger sibling will. Because of that, we don't roll students out of ours, but we actually do hope that they, no longer need academic support by the time they get to a later age. We hope that they no longer need the financial, support and access to breakfast. We hope these things are true, but our commitments to the family through the entirety of time, and so we don't, if you're with us as long as, over this year, everyone that was with us has stayed with us. Had new students, students graduating out.
Question for you, the breakfast themselves, the nutritional kind of components, the value, like, can you describe that a little bit and how you decide on what that is?
We have the benefit of having shoppers, and then we partner with the district who's for that food. So every day you'll have, multiple fruit choices, fresh fruit choices. You have a different source of protein. So one day is scrambled eggs, another day is a yogurt parfait, the next day is, waffles or oatmeal, so that rotates. And then we have low sugar cereals each morning, as an offering. So generally, that's what, we have a rotating source of protein, fresh fruit every day, and then low sugar.
So is the breakfast program privately funded, provided by the district? I'm just learning here, so.
We do all our own food, and, we feel like we're able to provide fresher food, and actually at a lower cost that way, and we have more control over what gets served. We're really going to commit options and,
Children with disabilities and other languages. How many of your participants, as well as volunteers, provide language support?
so 3 out of our 8 schools have a TWE program, so a dual language, Spanish and English. For those sites, we have a staff who is bilingual, Spanish and English. And at those sites, we really work hard to recruit Spanish-speaking tutors so that when our kids come in with homework in Spanish, or they want to just hang out in Spanish, there's always someone who can. I don't know if Kyle has those numbers, I don't have those numbers handy. We have other students that are English language learners as well. The majority of our students are English language.
And students with physical barriers such as hearing impaired or?
I don't have that number handy. To my knowledge, we don't have students at the moment that have specific disabilities, but we do have a number of students that have IEP that need education. I don't have.
No, I don't have it in front of me. I do know that at our 3 sites, I would say, out of those rosters, I would say half of each of those rosters would be, I would say, Spanish speakers. Do quick rough, but I don't really, that's not what I want to do right here, so I would like to look at the hard numbers. But part of this is one of the reasons, which thanks to you all, we've been able to hire and bring on, Spanish-speaking bilingual site directors, both for helping the students in the program with Spanish homework and communication with students, but also Spanish, communication as well, so. Back to that, we have the number, I just don't have,
It's around 50 to 70 of our students are native Spanish speakers from Dewey, Willard, and Washington.
Do you have any plans to expand any of these language bases? And if you do, what are they?
At this moment, we don't have a demonstrated need for additional language. We have had a couple of that we're working to provide additional support for speaking families. We've had several Creole-speaking tutors come, and that's some students that I know, that have needed additional language. But our goal is to always have a bilingual at our TWE sites and to continue to recruit.
We've been shy.
That's the 10-minute mark, just to.
All right, thank you so much, appreciate your time, yeah. Okay. So next up, I would like to invite the, Child Care Network of Evanston, representatives from there. And I noticed there's 2 back-to-back, are they the same individuals, just talking about different programs?
Correct.
Okay, got it, great.
We'll do learning together first.
Okay, yeah, sounds great, yeah.
Each program will get 5. So each program gets 10 minutes, and it's 5 minutes to
Yeah,
sort of let you know, but also to ask questions.
Yep.
Each are,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, so learning together will have 5,
Okay.
and then
Great.
mental health. will have
Perfect.
5.
Ever start?
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Deepa Mehta. I'm the Director of Programs at Child Care Network of Evanston.
And I'm Kava Alford, I'm a social worker, I'm mental health. And I lead up the Learning Together program.
She leads our team of consultants for Learning Together. So thank you so much for having us here and giving us the opportunity to speak about Learning Together. And we're really excited because this is really important work, and we're affecting a lot of children's lives, and I would say families and teachers as well in our community. So, I'll kind of start with the historical.
Learning Together has been around almost 20 years, and has done incredible work, I think, over the years. With COVID, we really focused on, one or two daycare centers in Evanston where we really were focusing on supporting teachers, and helping them around developmental, needs. And since COVID, we really shifted our focus to be able to provide services to every single full-day and part-day program in Evanston. Any program in Evanston can make a referral to our program, and ask for support, for their teachers or a child or a family around some kind of a developmental concern. That could be behavioral concerns in the classroom, speech and language delay, a self-regulation issue, right, which is when we would bring in an OT. And just concerns classroom itself and parent-child issues, right? So, on our staff, we have professionals that, do all of those, right? We have an OT, two speech, social worker, and a classroom specialist. And our goal is really to be there for every family, every child, and every teacher. So really trying to get at, all the different levels, of need. And there's more and more need, as you've heard from everybody. There's not enough teachers, there's too much stress. There's so many kids with more and more complicated, more dysregulation, more aggression, more anger, more upset. And it's permeating, the centers and really, really hard work. And so a lot of the work is around helping teachers develop some new tools and techniques, giving them different ideas of what they can do, making individual plans for the classroom, meeting with parents, talking about individual things they can be doing at home, making referrals to the district, to early intervention, to outside services, and then doing follow-up.
And I would say it's not just a referral. The Learning Together team can also walk the family, hold their hand through that referral process for early intervention or the school district referrals, which can be really grueling and really overwhelming for a parent. And I think that's something that's really unique about us, that we will walk them through from beginning to end, and we will try our best to ensure that they get services. And I think one of the gaps that Learning Together does fill is that currently in the school district system especially, there's a huge delay in services, long, and some of these kids have just dire needs of therapies and services. And having two speech and language pathologists, having an occupational therapist, a mental health consultant, an early childhood specialist that can go in and fill that gap to an extent. Yes, we can't provide long-term therapy, but we can provide, whether it's assessing, doing assessments on the children, providing that support to teachers, giving them those strategies to work with the children in the classroom and the parents at home. You know, that's so important to really bridge that gap between home and school, for especially in that early childhood age. So I think that our program really bridges that gap to an extent until we can at least get those children the services they really need. So, and Hava touched on this, but, you know, teachers in our community really need the support of Learning Together, just because of changes in the climate classroom. And really, you know, whether they're behavior challenges in the children, just, maybe trauma that families have gone through, just anything, there's so many things that are coming up post-COVID, more than we've ever seen. And we're getting a lot of those types of referrals as well. And we really, and, you know, Learning Together has been an integral part of supporting those teachers and working with those children and parents, but the children especially in the classroom. Lots of, you know, great changes, or we've seen improvements. And the teachers are really taking that and using those strategies. They're implementing them, and we're seeing that. So, I I know from the last report, you guys have in here that we've served 23 kids for the first half. I just want to point out that that was between, technically for us, April, through July. And as of, today, we are up to 48 children. So we've more than doubled that. So that really speaks to the need that's out there since this new school year has started. And we've done a lot of outreach. So I shouldn't say even we should say HAVA and the Learning Together consultants have intentionally done outreach to the Evanston Child Care Centers, calling them, meeting with them in person, letting them know what Learning Together has to offer. And we've really seen an increase in referrals as well. Open it up to questions.
Any committee members have any questions?
These centers are in the child care.
So far, we are serving 9 childcare centers right now. 6 of those 9 are majority serving, children and families of color. And we're looking to expand that. We want to expand that. And I think our outreach has really shown, there's been a little bit of an increase, but we're hoping to just keep going with that. So right now 9.
So the 48 children that you're
Yeah.
referring to, they're drawn from these 9.
Correct. And some centers more than others that are referring multiple children, so.
If I could jump in as staff and say, Learning Together, of the funding that they get from this committee, a lot of it is pass-through. So when Deepa mentions that the program ran from April to July, they can only pay their consultants. Money runs out, the services run out, and so our funds determine how often people are seen and how often.
So the city's funds are the only funds for the,
I guess help me, so the award for 23 was, 60,000. So that, how many consultants is that distributed across, I think, for their time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have 4.
Okay,
But now we have 5. We just hired an occupational therapist. We found that that was a need that, the children that were being referred. So we do have to, it's really based on, most of our needs are speech, I would say, and mental health, consultants. That is majority of our needs. So that's why we have 2 speech and language therapists, and I know Hava's, their only mental health consultant, but she takes on a lot, so.
So if you're doing the calculation,
Yeah.
we are all working
A lot, yeah.
a lot
A maximum.
for very little.
right, yeah.
All of us, for very little. And that's, we feel really strongly about that.
Yeah.
But we do feel that the team that we have is very passionate, and they're here for that, the right
Right.
reason, they're here to make a difference. More.
Right. Oh, that's definitely. Any other questions for the Learning Together program? If not, then I think that we can move on to the Mental Health Services program.
Sure.
Yeah,
Just to thank you for your work.
Thank you.
thank you, Councilor Reese.
Kelly's right. Hello.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself.
I am Carolyn Muscowski. I'm the Programs Manager for CNE. I'm going to be here talking about. Okay, great. So the goal of our mental health services grant is quick and free access to mental health services for families with very young, very similar to Learning Together with child care center. The program is open to any child care center in the kids under age 5. Age range. We find that these families often, very similar to the LT team in the referral process they're walking through, these families often not had an interaction especially regarding their children. And having the referral come through the child care center where they've built trusted relationships really help ease the process of seeking services that do historically have a pretty. So the referrals come from the child care center to our agency, and then we distribute them. So we hope that that connection from the center helps accessing the service. Some families get into the services around 6 sessions. And that because sometimes children more than 6 sessions are needed. We do also kind of expect at the outset that we'll have to connect if they want to continue. And we hope that within those 6 sessions or more, if needed, stabilize the family, their comfort, provide, with services, which will enable them to kind of go through the more rigorous process of getting the resources, this referral process. We currently have received referrals from 4 different child care centers. 100% of the families we've served so far are Evanston residents, and that's partially due to a budget change, but I just want to point out that's different from what we did seek out in order to serve the families that were coming to us, that we could dedicate the city money to. Although our partners are Evanston facilities, there are a lot of families who seek child care in Evanston. That's where we see a lot of percent of the city of Evanston funds right.
Right.
I have a quick, I noticed the stats here, nine participants stopped receiving services, and so is that expected? I guess, yeah, can you speak to that a little bit more?
It was unexpected.
Okay.
Actually, it's been a challenge this particular grant cycle that we really had a lot of trouble connecting the family directly to the therapist referral, and that's what those 9 families were, where the family accepted the referral, they completed the paperwork, the referral came to see, and the family never engaged with the therapist. That was really a new challenge for us, and we're still kind of problem that. We have seen those were really in April and May, 9 of those were. So it's possible in gap in funding March where we weren't able to provide services, and it's possible we had been waiting for services, and by the time they heard from our therapist, has gotten a little bit better in our more recent referrals. We haven't seen it.
So your organization and program kind of eliminates the issues of a waiting list, is that correct?
So far, we've been primarily able to eliminate a wait list. We've had times in the longer ago past where we've had a wait list. Just last year, ending in December 2022, we had a really high demand for this program, and there was a brief period of time where we needed to bring on additional therapists into the program. So far under this grant, we've not had any ways of being able to connect with in a matter of 24 to 48 hours with.
And how is that handoff, how smooth is that handoff to the next therapy session and plan?
That's definitely a challenging aspect because it really depends on, frankly, how quickly the therapist and the family act to start that process, because again, most programs, it's not a very easy thing to get on a wait list for services in other places that provide. So if the family doesn't decide that they want to continue with therapy until the 6th, sometimes there may be a little bit of a gap in services, but we try for our therapists to let clients know right up front that it is a time-limited therapy so that there's no surprises. and, you know, a plan.
Questions?
Thank you.
No? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Will do.
Okay, next I'd like to invite up Connections for the Homeless. Hello.
Everyone.
Flying solo.
So, my beloved colleague is out, and she had her baby. We all saw her last month, so missing her deeply. You're all stuck with me. So trends this, I guess, how familiar you all with the drop-in services we provide. So Connections has 2 drop-in facilities, Hilda Springs, which is at, and then Dewey. These 2 facilities offer a wide array of different services to folks that are experiencing homelessness or maybe at risk of homelessness. And they are created by our professionals who come and see what they need. They link them to showers, clothing, food. If they are homeless or going to about to be homeless, they will be sent over to for a diversion screening. And that's a screening tool that assesses why they may be facing the risk. There, they try to identify solutions. In conjunction with that, we have an outreach team that this funding does support, and they are the folks out there in the community. For someone who may be experiencing homelessness, we'll send them there. Partners like St. Francis, they may call and say they have someone in the emergency room or an ED to meet with them. Your funding is super crucial. Fortunately, drop-in services in particular are, in HUD terms, considered a program of supportive services only. And years ago, HUD has moved away from funding solely supportive services. So it is really, really hard to fund these types of programs. And with that, we rely heavily on this money, but in conjunction with other resources that we break with. Thinking of it, right now we're averaging about 1,400 people that visit our drop-in centers per month. About 60% of that are Evanstonians only. Small trend that I noticed between Q1 and Q2, while the overall number has dipped, the number has gone up. So it's something that I found a little bit interesting. Like all of you know, resources in our community are getting more expensive. So clothing, everything. Our food pantry is definitely seeing an increase in need. So this funding does support the staffing for it. We do receive other funding for food through Evanston, but it's to demonstrate that there is still a very high need. I was fortunate enough to attend a reception honoring Christine Haley, the Chief of Homelessness for the state of Illinois, and there, seeing so many partners in the homelessness service industry, just about what's to come. Cost of living, rent skyrocketing. We're all very nervous of what we're going to do. That said, we have staff that are very dedicated to what they're doing. We're grateful for them. But like many other organizations in here, we're struggling with hiring too. So we have lost a few staff. We are hiring for them. We just appointed a new supervisor for drop-in, which is going to be helpful. So if you know folks that are mission-driven and want to do the work, please refer them to us. It also takes a village, and we are the village in this room. We partner with many of these organizations here to refer folks that need specialized services. So we work diligently to refer them to other organizations.
Thank you for that overview. Does anybody on the committee have any questions?
Is the age group not just youth, or is it?
Yeah, not just youth. I would say that youth are probably under 18, we're seeing about 190 unique people this quarter. The majority are between 4, and the smaller portion are those over.
I think we heard last month, or that the number of youth who are going homeless.
Don't remember off the top of my head.
Just one question. I'm seeing here that case managers and outreach specialists in particular, you're finding a hard time, or you've lost some staff in those areas. What are just generally speaking, the requirements? Is it what are the requirements for those positions?
That's a really good question. I want to say we try to be an equitable organization by eliminating thresholds. So, really probably a bachelor's, but if people have really good experience and show dedication to the work, we do consider.
Especially that last piece, because sometimes it's like if you only hire somebody with a degree, but I know you don't, or it's people with similar experience, you're really talking about a smaller group, relatively small group of people. Because that means that they worked for another organization for some time. So you're either trying to take somebody away from another organization, or, hoping that people continue to graduate with this degree and want to work in this space. I feel like there's another pool of people out there that may have some natural abilities, that may play a similar role as a case manager, maybe in their own kind of personal networks, in their family, and among their friend groups, that would be passionate about this type of work. If it's a case manager position as opposed to a social worker, which I think requires a degree. I'm just throwing it out there. I'll reach out to you so we can talk more about it. But I feel like there are a lot of people looking for gainful employment. A lot of people reach out to me that say they want to do more to give back and to get involved, but they are not necessarily in kind of the kind of traditional position to take advantage of an opportunity like this. But I think if they were given an opportunity to show what some of their natural abilities and aptitudes could do, they might thrive, and they would be, as well as the organization would be better. So it's just something that, it's just a thought, but I'll reach out and we can talk more. Yeah.
Awesome. And also, while you're on that too, we do pride ourselves in hiring folks that were in. We have quite a few staff and participants in the staff, and have stayed with the organization as staff.
That's all.
That was a good point, Bobby. There are a lot of participants that are now in case management services. There's a lot of them, I think, don't know that they can go that far into it, so they have the lived experience and they move on with life. But I think a lot of them don't know that they can actually, I call it, graduate up to being a case manager. I know at least 6. So there's a lot of people that go really far in case management. I happen to go really far, but there's others that just want to do case management. He's right.
You hit it on the lived experience, because to me, a lot of it, like defense and basketball, is effort. Like, you just want to do it. I've experienced, especially through other people who haven't case, a lot of case managers, social workers that were awful. Like, attitudes, and seriously, especially, people shaking their heads, but y'all have probably seen it too, where it's an issue in social work and case management that I think, and it may be because people get burnt out, and they don't know how to pivot into something different, so they're on maybe a little longer than they should. And this is no criticism to the profession. My mother always, during the campaign, I said, fundamentally, I'm the son of a case manager, so I respect the work tremendously, but I think there's a lot of people that probably need to find other things to do with their time, that are sometimes really awful to people in during their worst times.
Mhm.
And that's why I think that lived experience is important, because I think what's important is that somebody has to want to do it, and has to really care about the clients. And so if you've been through it, you know, I think that sometimes you can relate a bit more. I'll be in touch.
Well, thank you very much for your time, appreciate it.
Come on, if I open up windows.
Yeah, we free.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite up the Infant Welfare Society next. Hello.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Susan Rick, I'm the Executive Director of IWSC.
And I'm the Director of Development and Communication.
So, we're here just for the safety net, because obviously, just a little quickly, just about our organization. So, our two programs in Evanston that are classroom-based, serve a total of 86 children when we're full, and their families, of course. We're about 75% enrolled right now, and most of that, the lack of enrollment is due to staffing and teacher shortages, which I think I talked about.
We talked about that
last
last
time.
yeah.
We have made a little progress. We had 3 interviews this week, which is good. But in terms of our safety net, the core services, part of our role as being an early Head Start provider is we have to have a mental health consultant on staff, which is a clinical psychologist. We have a disability consultant, an actual nurse that does health and wellness consulting, an educational consultant, and speech and language. So those are all our kind of safety net services, and one of the that is probably most is we must have a developmental screening done by 45 days of all of our children. Use the ages and stages questionnaire, ASQ and ASQ-SE, which is social emotional. And those are really the benchmarks we use for developmental progress with infants and toddlers. So that's how we assess where children are falling short or where there are gaps. And we bring in our consultants to work with those. We have what's called the IFSP, which is a individual and family service plan. We have a multidisciplinary team, which are all those people I mentioned that meet with the parent, meet with the teacher. They work and create that plan around the needs of the families. Heard Hava and CNE talk about some of the dysregulation and all those challenges. We've actually worked with Hava, amazing. They've been very supportive of our program. But there's a lot of challenges, right? Kids are showing a lot of need, a lot of dysregulation, a lot of social emotion. Parents are showing a lot of challenges, trauma. Work with young families, young parents, so there's just all sorts of needs that developmentally, when there's challenges in the home, those children come to school with behavioral challenges, emotional challenges, those sorts of things. So that's when we implement those wraparound kind of safety net services and that work with our consultants. So that's really the core of this funding, the $20,000. Incredibly important and helps get kids on track and families on track.
I was just gonna say, I met with, we also have a development consultant, and so she works with the teaching staff to help them, adapt the lesson plans and work with implement some of the therapies the kids are getting in that short 1-hour session into the classroom. But the early Head Start requires that 10% of your child population have identified disability, and about 30% of our kids do. So that tells you challenges there are, and it might not just be one challenge, but multiple. And I think the really key thing that struck me was, as I'm trying to learn about it, learn about all the many great things we do, is because we can do it right there at the classroom. Because I was thinking, my kids don't how hard it is to get time off of work, take your child to the doctor, to an appointment, and many of our parents don't have the kind of jobs where they have that. The longest thing about that wraparound is it's right there at our centers.
out into it in the meantime, they can continue to work with therapies and when you're talking that level, high level of deficit. But you just like to see how it's the kids post-COVID and the families post-COVID, where we have a lot more plans for families than we had before. A lot more.
I guess the last thing I'll say, linking back to the teacher, exacerbates the challenge. Overstressed, don't have all the supports that they need, like a lot of our classrooms, teachers as opposed to 3, so there's higher challenge with more children. And so those developmental supports also go in and help the teachers. What I was saying is that some of our teachers need that extra support at a different time. Our specialists go in and work with those teachers.
Funding is really crucial to us as well as that is that portion of the funding, like we have to raise, I think Steve said last time, $700,000 to $800,000. The giving, like during COVID, was actually pretty positive. People felt like, like their stimulus check or everything, but since then, like everything else, it's sort of retracted, like we're that have the means to give are looking at the stock market, all sorts of they would want. As crucial as our education. We always say we work with the whole family. Child receiving that high quality. No child can learn and no parent can be.
Any questions for the Infant Welfare Society?
So what percentage of this program does this?
It's a small percentage. I mean, we have.
Yeah,
I mean, this is a tiny piece, but again, every dollar we get lessens our burden of fundraising, right? But I don't have the exact number, but if I added up all of our consultants and then also time the teachers are involved in these IFSPs, it's probably in the $400,000 to $500,000 staffing.
Yeah, I say that not at all to challenge your, in all of our meetings, how little support, how small our financial support is to your needs.
That's our job, and really to get a very complex pot of money from a broken system. So we appreciate everything.
I've been there, so
this committee
I
did.
understand.
We're very thankful for this committee support.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'll just say my mind went there too, when you said 20,000. But I hope you view this committee, as partners. I think contribution is more than $20. To this committee or people we're connected to. I think I certainly view myself, and I think for all the agencies that are here. That's why we inquire as much as we do, because we're rooting for you.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it, yeah.
You dropped something.
Okay. Oh, somebody dropped something?
Yeah, she dropped something.
Oh. Okay, next up, I'd like to invite, Interfaith Action of Evanston.
Back up.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi.
I'm Summer B. I'm the Executive Director of Interfaith Action. And a little bit about what we're about. Our mission is to serve experiencing hunger. For about 37 years, we have had the hospitality at St. Mark's Church, where Monday through Friday, people can have breakfast, we have a job counselor who helps them, but they can also have a place to sleep, and just a place in the morning. We also, in the winter, open up, we borrow Hilda's place, and Saturday and Sunday morning. We do 9 soup kitchens in Evanston, so there's at least one soup a day. And a lot of other things that just work with the different faith communities. But what this, grant covers, different things. The big one is we have an, emergency overnight shelter, and we opened about 15 years ago when it was 0 degrees, and we had volunteers who would let people into St. Paul's Lutheran Church just when it was 0 degrees. Gradually, we were able to raise that temperature and get more faith communities to give their spaces. So this coming year, next week, we open, we have 9 faith communities that each give us between 3 and 6. We stay in their building. We provide the cots and the blankets and the beverages. At 9 o'clock at night, like about at 10, they can spend the night. We wake them up at 6:30 in the morning. We're out of that building by 7, and people come to the Hospitality Center for breakfast, so it's kind of a circle. We are primarily volunteer. I'm the only full-time staff. So we rely a lot on our volunteers. And this year our night shelter will be open for 31 weeks. Not good enough. We need to be open 52 weeks, but we have gone from 0 degrees to every night for 39 weeks. We are improving, and we do have 2 staff at night are able to supervise, and then the rest are volunteers. But we got permission last week from IGOGBO to move our bed count to 30. We had to go down to 20 during COVID because we had to keep people 6 feet apart. So now we can let them get a little bit closer. So we'll be 30 people every night. We already have the beds filled, and we have a waiting list of about 15 people. But all the people who work with us have caseworkers at Connections. So they often get into the margarita or get into housing. So generally, they don't have to stay without a shelter at night very long. The other thing that we've talked about in the grant, and it's just, I think it just says toilet paper. But we do bring toilet paper to the different churches and synagogues where we stay. But that goes for our produce mobile. And Chicago has a produce mobile, and once a month they bring semi-truck filled with fresh produce to Robert Crown. And our volunteers go and unpack it, load it up, and load boxes up. And we get about 300 people who come and get food for their families once a month. And there's, no questions asked, everybody can come. And I like that, I like all the things we do, but I think that is kind of special because I live by Robert Crown. And a couple of years ago, we were having a bonfire in my yard, and the neighbors were over there. And there was a lady sitting around the fire, and they own a home in our neighborhood, have 2 children, but her husband was out of work, and they were really struggling. And she said, I saw all these people over at Robert Crown, and I went over there, and I got enough potatoes and apples and carrots for my family for a month. So it just hit me. It's people just like me. It's for everybody who is just having a hard time. And it helps.
Well, I also have to say it also helps fill the hearts of the volunteers. I work with some of the volunteer organizations that work with their group, and they come back more than just filled up with joy and delight from the services they provide. And we're always fighting to fill the calendar to make sure that there are more volunteers that come to you.
I think that's one of the coolest things because you actually, in the morning, if you're at the door, or in the evening, volunteers welcome people in and give them their blanket and all of this. You talk with people and you develop a relationship with them and find out that, we're not so very different. We're just at different stages, time of our life.
I'm a fan of the produce. Trifle, I can't, but I've seen all things there. They love it. They all love it. Bobby, the seniors go over there to get it too. From Blake, I forget the other one. They take the, yeah, they go over there and get produce, just FYI.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay. We're talking about the seniors in the Fifth Ward.
How do you find your, volunteers? How do you find volunteers and get them involved?
You know, we're just really lucky. I think part of it is because we're with the faith communities.
Mm-hmm.
So we just spread the word, and we have a volunteer at each one of the faith communities who I can communicate with and say, okay, we, you know, at the overnight shelter or in the morning, and then they spread that to their
Or the soup kitchen.
locations.
Yeah. Women's Club has been doing it for years.
Rotary. You know,
Rotary.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
helps them.
Ongoing calendar.
So, the only question for me is it, is it the same group of people for like a year or a certain amount of time, or how does that work?
For the overnight shelter,
Yeah,
we used to have people just come and get in line.
yeah,
And it was pretty awful, because they'd get in line about 6 o'clock at night, and then 9 o'clock would come, and we'd open the doors, and at that time, we could have 40, that was a while ago. If you were number 41, you didn't get in, and then what do you do? So a few years ago, we changed it, and so make the list in the morning. I mean, we have the list right now, and we let people know who's going to be in there, and that bed is your bed for the whole year, or the whole season,
okay.
as long as you don't miss more than 2 in a row without permission. And missing nights, of course, we have to give that bed to somebody else. So that has prevented the whole thing of people waiting in line for hours. They know who's in, they come at 9 o'clock. We don't disturb the neighbors like we were. And also, there are some people that actually do stay the whole year, or until they get a bed at the Margarita.
The year and then season is a year, is it?
31 weeks.
Oh, that's
This
what you're
year,
saying, right,
this
right,
year,
right.
31 weeks. Last year, we had 94 different people that went through during the 30 weeks we were there last year.
And what months again? I would imagine the colder. What weeks do you do?
Start next week.
Starts next week.
The 22nd, I think it's,
How do you determine, who gets to come?
people say come first served, you know, when they sign up on the list. Actually, the most vulnerable people get in first. So we work with their caseworkers, so we know the people who are less likely to be able to survive in the cold weather. Then often women get another chance first, depending on, you know, there's some women. But we start with that, most vulnerable.
Are there any children?
No.
Okay. And so this is all referral based, so all of the folks you're working with come from other agencies or referred by other agencies or connections?
Pretty much they come from our morning center, so we get about 35 people every morning that come for breakfast.
Okay.
So it's basically that group of people, but those are the same people that go to drop-in at Connections, so we really work together. And manager, of the overnight shelter, and every morning, he and I both get, an email from whoever the staff was that night, letting us know, like, so-and-so didn't come in, and so we have an open bed. And then I'm there in the morning at 7 o'clock, so I can look around and say, oh, well, William, he's one of my favorite people. William's on the list, and he's here. So then he would get the bed.
Mm-hmm.
If there's nobody right there who needs to get in, then we call the caseworkers right away at Connection. Okay, you know, do you have somebody near you? Because homeless people sometimes are hard to find. Because if you're a person experiencing homelessness, your phone doesn't work all the time, and we really tell people, keep coming in, keep contact with us.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Much
All right,
appreciated.
thank you.
Okay, next up, we have the Command Center. Hello, good to see you again.
How are you?
Yeah.
Good to be seen and not viewed.
All right.
My name is Patrick Keenan-Devlin, and I serve as the Executive Director of James B. Moran Center. Moran Center is a 40-plus year, 50 organization in our community. We provide integrated legal, social work, and we started and continue in the muck of the criminal and justice system, representing children and emerging adults up to the age of 26 in both criminal and juvenile delinquency, and support Evanston residents and folks all over Cook County who are leading the then work diligently as lawyers and social workers and restorative justice practitioners to keep out of the broken injustice system. And, needs ensure the appropriate children who are being excluded from expulsion. And we support whole families who are being destabilized by several different in our community. That ranges in anything from representing families in eviction proceedings, parents in unemployment, and child support cases. Any civil legal matters that are central to it, please. That is the core of what we do, and I'm happy to spend with a dad, 2 young sons, being rather ill, all of his medical issues. Lost the business, he fell behind on rent. And the landlord ultimately moved to evict his father and his. The landlord, the tenant then came and sought legal services representation. And one of the first things we did is we approached the landlord and said, hey, you, with this tenant, to apply for government-based landlord support. The landlord at first said yes, and it got a little tricky because the landlord wanted a very specific move-out date. Find housing. That landlord. Lawyers do, and we got ready for trial. And trials in eviction courts, if you've ever seen them, never go well for the tenant. Very rarely do they go well. It can often serve as a delay tactic to buy us more time, allow the family to remain in the home. So we did that. And we did it so well that ultimately the landlord caved, agreed to a new move-out date, gave $21,000 in back rent, and most importantly, agreed to an agreed order. Folks around this table, I know you all know that an eviction on your background is really impossible to get that place rent. Because the eviction was sealed and housing in that. I tell this story because is the power of law, the power of social workers working behind the scenes, looking for housing, helping the father find new housing units while we were preparing. It also tells the story of why we do what we do. Families who are down by scale. Need advocates. Ultimate goal, the shared goal, in our community. Need in our, and these are our neighbors, and we love. One story I wanted to.
Love your work, you already know that.
Right. I'm keeping on.
Thank you very much, Ben. Appreciate it.
He's so tired, I know. He was the facilitator today, so. Right, so he was doing a lot of stuff this morning.
Next up, Meals on
Yeah.
Wheels. Yeah, well, welcome.
Hi.
Well, we've been very busy down the street. First of all, thank you for your ongoing support all these years with everything that we have gone through. And I hope you'll stop in and take the tour. He'll show you around. Yeah, there's a lot going on. We built that food production facility at the corner of Simpson and Darrow 3 years ago now, with the idea that we could serve about 100,000 meals a year, and thought that that was good. We'll probably serve 220,000
Wow.
meals this year. We are absolutely bursting at the seams. So, it is 1 in 6 seniors struggles to access food. That equates to an awful lot of people that we would love to more of. We have been looking at subsidies for full price per meal is $10. Anyone who cannot afford $10 is given a reduced rate. It's a sliding scale based on their specific. I noticed actually in my report it says 64% are subsidized, and that's actually an old statistic. I don't know how I that up, but last year it was 10% paid full price, 4% was. So we're serving a lot more people than ever before, and a lot more of them are subsidized. You look at the Evanston numbers, I just grabbed them very quickly, and I went back a year, so it's not necessarily, but there were 105 Evanston clients. Of those 105, 92 were subsidized, so that's 88%. And if you look at the average fee that people are paying, last year it was down to $1.92. That's how deeply we're reducing for folks. So if you look at $8.08 being subsidized per meal, average person consumes meals a year. We subsidize, just in the city of Evanston alone, $178,460. We appreciate everything that you guys help. Very, very important. Saddest thing in the last year that just, you asked me what keeps me up at night. We are a waiting list this year. Necessity, the organization continue to grow. We went from subsidizing $365,000 worth of meals last fiscal. The most recent fiscal year, $770,000. Have an increase like that, it's pretty hard to keep pace with donations. Our donations grew by $124,000, which in any other organization, you'd be like, yeah, great year, but it just doesn't. So hard decisions had to be made. Not pleasant at all, but it's just temporary. So we can get through some of these other obstacles, one of them being producing more meals. What that location has also given us the ability to do, in addition to serving our usual home-delivered meals,
we were able to, at the end of January, start serving other congregation programs and home delivered meal programs, particularly southwest of Chicago, because there was a caterer that burned down. They approached us knowing that we had this new facility and we have a really good reputation with our food. We immediately went to work making all these meals for other folks, and for the first time ever had sort of a little new revenue stream where we could charge more per meal than $1.92. So that has been very, very helpful to the organization. We also started for the first time last November, almost a year ago, our first congregate dining site in Niles. That has been very successful. That person, it has been able to bring in a lot of people who need the socialization, fairly homebound folks. And I'm going to talk to the best example I can give you for that is one woman who showed up. We rent a room at the Niles Senior Center, and this woman came in the first day I was there working it, and she said, every Wednesday for the Memory and Me class with my spouse, she passed away, and I don't know why I'm still coming here. Do you feel comfortable here? Sat down and ate. A week later, I watched her sitting at a table with this new group of friends laughing and just so happy, and I was like, that's why we do what we do. But that has been wildly successful. That is actually receiving Older American Act funding. The only program in our organization that delivered doesn't qualify because of NJE and Catholic Charities.
What time do you guys start working? 'Cause I've driven past there. It's like you're working like little elves in there, literally. The keyboard elves have nothing on you.
The kitchen staff shows up at 7 a.m.
Yeah, I thought so.
And then, but work later. It's absolutely a group effort. There are more than 50 volunteer positions every day. It happens. Cutting vegetables, people helping to package the meal. On stickers, pack them in the route bags. We have people that you've probably seen the vehicles on the road, which parking tickets. But they drive distribution routes to, one of them goes up to Highland Park, Waukegan, College Lake County. The other one goes and Des Plaines, and goes down to Melrose Park, sticks to the bank every day, loaded up with meals.
So where do you get your volunteers from?
A lot of it, interestingly enough, is word of mouth. Some of the other volunteers have such a great time that they just invite their friends. We try to do things on the online networks just because we have an app that we use. It routes the driver from client to client. At each stop, the first question they're asked is, what is the condition of the drop-down box that message back to the office if there's a problem. They take orders with that app. So anyway, the volunteers need to know a little bit about
Speak a little bit, so I'm looking at just the summary sheet here. Projected served, the projection for what you're gonna serve in the first half of this year in Evanston was about 125 people, but currently in service it's 46. So can you speak a little bit to, and I noticed no one really stopped receiving services, so what happened there? That explains that gap.
no one, the numbers, wasn't it April? The number of people who stopped services is a little bit hard to track because people, we have long holds and short holds. So for example, if someone goes in the hospital and then goes into a rehab facility and that sort of thing, they're just on hold, so they haven't actually left. But if they move away or, you know, move into a facility. But in terms of the number of people, it was a, abbreviated time period.
A note in the report that, we could go over the report numbers.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Next up, I'd like to invite, the North Shore Senior Center. Representatives from there. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm a little under the weather. I'm Laura Warneman, I'm the grants manager at North Shore Senior Center.
And I'm Krause, the director of and I'm also a 22-year resident of Evanston.
Normally, Tisha Rudnicki, our executive director, and Kathy Honeywell, our director of senior and family services, are usually in attendance. Unfortunately, they both ended up being out of town. So we're here to, and any questions we can't answer for any reason, we can certainly, get back to you. We can send it. Provide you with some information. So, North Shore Senior Center, through our Department of Senior and Family Services, we provide, a wide breadth of social services as an aging services provider to residents of Evanston, which includes but is not limited to general case management and care coordination, which is an assessment and directing older adults to services that they may need, older adults benefit programs to direct them to maintain and apply for various public benefits, 20 different programs, delivered meals program, support groups, Choices for Care, which operates out of the St. Francis and Evanston hospitals, which helps direct people to if they may need something like a skilled facility or if they can actually continue to live in community. We have a lending closet for medical equipment, information, and assistance. And this year, we're fortunate to be able to relaunch our escorted transportation services, which can bring people to medical and dental appointments. So we're starting that on a smaller scale, and we're looking to expand to our full-service area that was suspended, unfortunately. This year, as you see in the numbers, so far in the first 6 months, we supported 1,348 Evanston residents through those various services. That also includes our Grandparents Raising Grandchildren program, which is primarily families in Evanston. We have 21 families and 51 grandchildren that we support there, and they meet monthly at the Fleetwood Jordan Center. And then we have an upcoming holiday party, and we just recently had a back-to-school event for those individuals. And so we invest about $6 per individual through our department and per year, which reaches about $500,000 in investment in Evanston residents per year. So, you know, we do a lot. It's a big, you know, even though it's only 10% Evanston residents, about 10% of the people we serve through that, you know, we think it's still significant. Our goal is to prevent them from falling, anybody we serve through the department, to help them from falling into crisis by assessing, evaluating, and implementing the correct service and care plans. And we are the state contracted care coordination unit for the city of Evanston. And so any of those services that come through IDOA or Age Options, the Area Agency on Aging, comes through North Shore. We're contracted to do, and we help to serve older adults.
I just, you know, it was interesting. I've never done anything like it was really interesting listening to everyone else's keys, I guess, or cases, and a lot of them have to do with the children, with the youth of Evanston. My kids both grew up all through the Evanston schools. I love Evanston. I just hope that this committee also values the well-being of older adults as much as they can. A lot of times, it's challenging for us because older adults aren't as sexy as pets when you're trying to raise money. And so I just hope that this committee sees value in supporting our older adult population, The reason why I took a job at North Shore Senior Center was, number one, I also did work for senior for that, on a contract basis, but just because I've always really, valued older people system and what they bring to our world. And so I did want to share, you know, we do go into the homes of, older people here.
Mhm.
We do have a presence at Lee Senior Center.
Those services are also provided with no fee, and we, don't have wait lists as well.
When it says that 10% of your are from Evanston, what are the other communities that would have higher percentage?
We serve a lot from, Skokie and Des Plaines and Niles, and we have served a 26 community area, so we're almost all of northern Cook County. And we are, because we're the care coordination unit for Niles, New Trier, Northfield, Maine, and the city of Evanston, or those townships in the city of Evanston. So it's a really broad breadth, and Glenview as well. Those are kind of the big communities that we tend to provide.
How big is your staff, just case managers, people who are working these safety net roles?
We have a total staff of about 110, 87 of whom are full-time. The majority of them are in senior and family services. I don't know the numbers offhand.
I think that's staff and social.
That's one of the challenges that we face this year, is trying to bring on new staff. You know, even though we've tried to, part of the strategic plan that we've implemented is to try and increase salaries. We offered bonuses last year to people coming out of COVID, increased health benefits, but it's still really a challenge. And so a lot of our care coordinators have really significant caseloads. And because we don't have a wait list, they are all constantly working. They're in constant communication with their clients, and so that's really a big challenge, is to try and bring on additional staff to manage that caseload.
Have you considered, I know Bobby had talked earlier about creative recruitment. Have you considered other angles of creative recruitment for staff members?
I think to some extent, I believe, and maybe I don't know if you know this, but I believe for the social workers, they do have to have a master's in social work for some elements. But there are other places in the department that for outreach, for example, that if they may not be working with direct clients and managing that caseload, there probably are opportunities. I think that was an interesting conversation to hear about bringing in people who have experience, who may especially have empathy for working with people who are in more challenging. So I appreciate that comment.
And language challenges as well as physicality, how do you address those?
We have staff that speak about, in 23 different languages.
Thank you.
And so that's been a big part, there's been a lot of recruitment in that specific area, because especially older adults, if they have immigrated here, there's so much less opportunities, you know, for them to be able to pick up language. And so being able to connect with them in that way has been a big push for us, to be able to provide those services, because otherwise, managing that would be almost.
I had a client that spoke Farsi, and
Yeah.
when I was at the Center of Concern, we work heavily, as you know, with.
Yeah.
Wonderful. It's a big population in that place.
Yep.
So we use you heavily. You probably is one of two resources that we had for reuse it.
Any other comments or questions for?
I guess just to, go back over, how are the people referred again?
They're referred through all sorts of ways. They may come through a doctor's office, they may come through, they can hear about us through libraries, a lot of it's word of mouth. Actually, I was thinking about that, churches are a big part of this.
Yeah.
So like I said, if they're going to receive any of those care coordination services, they do end up coming through us, through whichever, for whatever referrals.
And you provide caregivers, or more so kind of identify
We
people?
can connect them to care. We have an intake team who has all of the different referrals
Okay.
for.
So someone who may qualify through their benefits to have a caregiver, you would help kind of.
A big part of our goal is to make sure that people can continue to. So the Colbert grant is part of an assessment so that to determine if someone really needs the care of an assisted living facility necessarily, or if we can provide services to them to stay in their homes. And then whether that's with a family caregiver, or if it's through living in their actual home by themselves, and then just, bringing together all these different services, that's homemaker services, meal services, right, exactly, a number of supports so that they can.
What percentage would you say are still at home?
I think it's almost the majority, right?
Majority.
That really
Pretty
is
much
everything.
almost all. I mean,
All
all
of
of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
that's our
Yeah,
whole
that's
goal.
That's what's up.
That's
Yeah,
great.
is to help avoid going into nursing home.
That's amazing.
The question, a lot of the clients, what they talk about wraparound, I mean, they provide literally everything, for those are the seniors. Never had any of my older clients were well taken care of, I had no issue.
And what about physical therapy? It seems like I've been in situations, either work with someone or a family member where where the funding runs out, but they still need support. So I don't know if that's something that y'all help people out with at all, or if you found any way to help people get additional physical therapy.
We don't have physical therapists. I don't know that we would, I don't know the answer to that. If we refer them to.
Run into that a lot at all, or not really, where someone has run out of, their benefits that they have will no longer fund physical. I think about like stroke, people who have had strokes especially, because that can be a really long recovery. And at some point, the benefit runs out, they can't get the therapy anymore, but they may. Just wondered if that's something that y'all
Well,
ever
we
run
do
into.
have older adults benefit specialists. We do work with people in helping them get the, the renewals or the applications for Medicare, Medicaid. We actually have someone at Levy Senior Center 3 or 4 times a month.
Okay.
So they do work with them in that way.
Anything housing counseling related, do you work with like in open communities or other HUD certified organizations to support? So I would imagine since they're still in their home, they still have,
Well, we have
some may
counseling, all
still have
different.
mortgages, probably not a lot of them, but some may have mortgages or other housing needs.
Well, we do have a new housing specialist on staff who's
Okay.
been a social worker care coordinator for years. And he's moved into this new position where he's helping people who, are having trouble paying their rent, or may get evicted, or may need a new home, or need help staying in their home. So we've got someone dedicated to that.
I guess that's a good point. Do you know how many are renters versus homeowners in the program?
Don't know
No,
that.
Next time we talk, I'd be curious.
Okay.
That's all, sure, thank you.
Are your staff, SOAR certified through SAMHSA? SOAR certified, you said there's about 4 times they go over to the Levy Center, right?
Levy Senior Center.
Yeah, to help with, SNAP or, I'm sorry?
With benefits.
Right,
Older adult benefits.
okay, do you have anyone to like redo the SSI or SSDI or? Social Security,
Yeah.
income and Social
So we
Security.
do I think they help with that and, energy assistance
Mhm.
and
Providing for-
ID, SNAP, and
Uh-huh.
all of
Okay, because there's, you could look into it after you leave here. Your staff, even you can be, everybody can become SOAR certified. And then that means anybody can go over there. SOAR, I can't even think one right now what it stands for, but it's the person that any one of you can be qualified to go and help a person through redetermination or any type of benefits, any type of them, and it makes it go quicker. If the agency is SOAR certified or that case manager is SOAR certified, it goes through quicker, it's expedited through,
I'm sorry we
the
can't
government.
answer. We
I'm
don't
sorry?
know that. I'm sorry that we don't know that.
No, that's okay. It's okay, you know now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you look into that, and that looks really good too, with the different, grants you might be trying to get other than something from us, it looks really good. So then you don't have to contract anybody, you don't have to pay anybody more necessarily to do those services for you, the seniors.
Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next up, peer services and, the substance use treatment program.
Bobby, can I close this window now?
Yeah.
You got enough air?
Or Jessica, you're gonna make a, yeah.
No, I also wanted to let the committee know that, Ann Brown wanted to be here, but she had a family,
Oh, okay, with the
but
peer
she
services.
is online. Yeah, she's on the phone and available, and she'd be able to speak now. Be able to speak now. Ann,
I can,
Sarah?
I can speak now.
Okay. Wonderful. That's the first thing that's gone way with technology.
But Noy is presenting.
Hello.
Everybody, my name is Noe Frial Lopez. About 3 weeks, October 1st will be my.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you. Quite a learning experience and still more to learn. Here has been around 1970 as a response to the open. In the community, leaders, pastors, developed. At that time, we've grown. We started our offers methadone to combat the services. We work in schools and high schools, in the schools. Professors I learned in peer is working in these programs for so long that they've seen kids grade who are now seniors. Remember you from grade. Treatment services, providing services to folks and up. Folks at 80%, 90% are low. And we offer individual open 6 days a week. Our services clinics so that we can catch folks who want to go to work. Invitations from us. Billing that we are able to do covers a fraction of our expenses. Really helps to fill that. And, us to continue to provide these services. Learned during COVID, that, a lot of folks, at home don't want to come back to a brick and mortar, especially teens at a hard time doing service. We really have to think about how do we engage folks. In the community, meet folks where they're at. In the last 3 years, in our services, organizations like St. Francis therapists, that screening right away, or at least build that relationship, have that access of we're also in the unit. Have your face, work with, even if you're not quite ready to take the step, but you at least know. We moved our prevention team to an office in also moved a couple of therapists there during my time at all those places as well as and do an intake. In September, we started a program working with alternative our Skokie Courthouse. This program is able to drive folks if you're like that needed officer direct. I did also that we engaged some of those schools, Chicago. Learning is COVID. General sort of put it. Asked me what the big topic started. It was a substance called TRANQ, which is a track thing. So, vaping. Now it's fun. So what we're learning from the school and the school systems are in what we do at ET. So yeah, I feel like there's so much there in terms of hoping to do in the next couple of years with a new ED in place. We are going to do our strategic planning. And I'm excited to learn from the community happening, adjust our services. Anne did prepare a couple of stories for me to end with, but I think sitting, with experience stories, I want to share one that I had just a few weeks ago. One of the services we have is express therapists on staff do our therapy with our clients. Knowing showcase their art and share their story. But I was able to sit in one of the groups. I sort of felt a little bit uncomfortable, but I really connected with a client who was also Asian American. Might have been an uncle, really. And I feel like I was blessed to have these experiences that he know that someone like him would have been me or kind of later that in addition to homelessness and everything that our therapy from.
Okay, any questions for Pierre?
I guess just make sure I understand the numbers, and this will help me really follow them, but, it says total 170, and then projected 81. Can you explain those numbers? That's more of a question for, city staff, for Jessica.
Sure, so the total number comes from all of these numbers come from the Zoom grant report that agencies. And that 170, the total number, that's the total number of Evanston residents served in the report period, so January through June.
Okay.
According to Pierce report, 10 participants. So currently in services, I have 106 with an asterisk. And that is because Peer works with a number of students, as Noah mentioned, in the high school, but, they aren't counted necessarily because they don't. Yeah, so to provide a low barrier for students, we don't wanna turn them off by, Peer did not wanna turn them off by requesting demographic information, household income, any of that. They just serve the students, and that's why that 40 is represented. The agency did provide projections in their application, so the 81, is half of the Evanston residents the agency when they were filling out the application, and so gives the committee an idea of the capacity.
We did add the definitions at the end, at the bottom of the page, on each page,
Oh, I see.
for your reference.
Yeah.
Not that we don't wanna answer question, but just if you're looking at the
No, that's
features, because we noticed there were some questions last month.
That was helpful for me too.
So the projected is, Pure Services thought they'd serve 81, but they ended up serving 170, is that the way to think of it?
Yeah, or in their original application, they said that they would serve 160 new residents through the program year.
The full period.
Right,
Yeah.
so I just took half of that.
Okay, yeah.
I see, yeah, okay.
That's,
Got it.
that's good. The Pure, serving less Evanston residents, I guess I'm curious to know, if the work you're doing in North Side of Chicago, Skokie, is that a new direction, or is that continuing how Pure has always served in the area, that it's all similar to the other organizations that you've always served, kind of Evanston, but also a wider area, or is that the way the organization is trending, that it'll start to serve the surrounding areas more and more?
Noi, can I answer this one? So the,
On
so
through.
on the report, it shows that we served 33% of our clients were Evanston clients during the first half of the year. And that's actually up. Usually it's been 25% over the past many years. So the number of Evanston clients has increased. And I think we anticipate that the number of Evanston clients will stay, at 25% or above. And some of the work that we're doing now and hoping to do is definitely engaging people on the north side of Chicago, where we have also done work in the past. But I think as much as we're going to be, I'm hoping that we will be working with more people overall. So I think the percentage will stay similar, but our numbers will grow over time.
Yeah, and I think being in the community will just.
Has Pure ever done, house visits, like if you get a referral about someone that's not necessarily ready to visit Pure on their own, or they're not required to go to receive services through or some other, has Pure ever done home visits before, knock on somebody's door and say, hey,
Like an interview.
almost like a well-being check, how a police officer may do a well-being check, but like the social, the Pure Services way of doing that.
And we'll have a historical data that I can share with you now, that, depending on what you call it, home, we are partnering with Alvin and Greenwood Care. Part in their home.
I guess what I'm saying is,
Can I interrupt? Are you able to speak up a little bit, because I
Oh, I'm
believe
sorry.
Ann is not able to hear you.
Oh, yes, I was just saying, Ann, feel free to provide that historical information, if you have it. I was sharing that we are getting Greenwood Care and Alvin Care now. Those clients, I don't know if we.
Yeah,
yeah, more so, man, like, what happens when somebody is, like, maybe interested, but not necessarily ready to take the step of going to a, you know, to a facility themselves? Would peer ever, you know, go to someone's house and try to engage them there? And not necessarily doing the services in the home, but just doing the outreach to try to engage them at their home, and then inviting them, you know, maybe to a conversation or to a group meeting would probably be the best way to integrate most people into.
I don't know if we've done that, but I love the idea of support special.
yeah, to my knowledge, we have not done that in the past, but many of the things that we're doing now are aimed at engaging folks who, outside of peer, who are already with partner organizations right now, at the hospital, at Connections for the Homeless, at the Cook County Courthouse, who may not have considered treatment, and having those initial conversations with them to really open them up to the idea of treatment. And we're continuing to look at additional ways that we can do that in the community. So thanks for the idea.
And I guess I'm thinking like Trilogies, cause I think Trilogy would do that, would go to someone's home. I think they have to be only in the public. I think Trilogy would knock on somebody's door and say, hey, we got a referral about this person or that person, and if we can. And maybe even partner with Trilogy to go on some of those calls with them. I think you said that, well, you said the living room, but I don't know if you're also doing I don't know if it's called the mobile crisis team, it might not be, but Trilogy has a program that's funded by the state where they go out, and if somebody's in mental health crisis, they'll go out and try to help. And so maybe partner with them some way as a way to a little bit more of the outreach. But I deal with a lot of situations in the Fifth Ward where there's someone that is in a household that needs some support, maybe somewhat open to it, but maybe, you know, need a little bit of encouragement that the individuals in the household can provide, and so then what, is my question. And so we can talk about that further, but that's what I'm still trying to solve for. Who is that person I can call to say, hey, can you, you know, pop over to this home and have a conversation, try to engage them and see if they're willing to at least start a conversation, join a group, or, you know, have a phone call next week, that kind of thing.
Lovely idea that.
Yeah, exactly.
Any other questions for Pierre?
Thresholds as well.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ann.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Next up is YOU.
Yeah.
Thresholds is, substance use or mental health?
Both.
They're both.
You're in the home stretch now.
Hello, how are you?
I'm Teresa Cordes. I'm the Director of Clinical and Outreach Services for YOU. And our funding is primarily focused on our street outreach. I just want to mention also, we get some money from FISB, which is an acronym, that we share that funding with the City of Evanston outreach team, the subcontractors of that. So that has helped us, further partner with the outreach team of Evanston. Just kind of give you an overview briefly of the clinical department. The clinical and outreach department, we work very closely not only with outreach workers, but with the schools. Make sure that we are addressing the needs of the kids. And we work very closely with the school social workers. Our clinical team, our youth and family counselors are, either licensed or working towards their license under my license. They are providing therapy, different, therapy modalities, art therapy, we use therapy and dance and movement, which has been really popular with the high school kids. We have a group rap, that has actually been an excellent outreach tool for us. Because one of our, therapists goes into the high school during lunchtime and, we'll bring a microphone and speaker, and the kids will have an opportunity, to mess around during lunchtime. I understand the last time I got a little out of hand with the language, but, otherwise, it's been really helpful in getting kids attracted to the services. We attend all of the community events, and one thing that we have found that's been really helpful is, for example, we bought water bottles with QR codes on them, so that if any kid is in need of any social services, they can scan the QR code. It connects directly to our website and our social services department to find out. We had previously tried, like, putting labels on potato chip bags, and we saw those littered on the ground, and we thought, oh, let's go with something a little bit more permanent, and so that's been a big hit. But we try any means possible to engage people, which is why we also continue to use telehealth. So kids who don't wanna come and be visible if they're receiving services, whether it's case management or mental health, we are FaceTime, we'll, sometimes kids will call during lunch, to connect. Part of also our outreach team is our homeless crisis response team. Our program exclusively works with Evanston youth. We don't work with any other youth. And so we are on call 24/7. The youth becomes homeless, and those are youth ages of 11 and 17. And we have someone who is on call who filters the calls, and then we have somebody who goes out. And I have to say that those numbers, the ages are getting up. Now, the federal grant is asking us even 10, sometimes volunteers. And these are kids who are primarily locked out. The parents are saying just to come back, or kids. So what our role is to mediate before we get foster care involved. They'll file the report, but we're working with DCFS to prevent them going into the foster care system. And it's fortunate, I have to say, that over the last year or so, some of the cases are just mind-boggling. Last year, we dealt with a 13-year-old girl, for example, who was living alone in an apartment she was sharing with her mom, but her mom decided to move in. The 13-year-old had lived there for 2 months on her own, got herself to school, and I ended up picking her up from an emergency room, and she said that, you know, she made light of it, that, you know, oh, I don't mind it. My mom brings groceries over while she doesn't even see her mom. So I made contact with the mom to see if we could put the family. The mom said, you know, wherever she wants to go. 13. No, it's not wherever she wants to go. You're the guardian. And so, you know, in situations like that, in her situation, we were able to find a family member that she really wanted to live with and really wanted her. So she ended up moving with that relative. But the, you know, lack of responsibility of the parents. This kid who was older than her year. Fortunately, we're seeing some of that, where, you know, a 14-year-old who newborn came into the house with new stepdad, 14-year-old is kicked to the curb, you know, like. And so it's a matter of us engaging with the families, and a lot of times we do family therapy. We continue our contact once we reach. So we make that particular program known. We work a lot with ETHS, counselors and social workers. They will give us a heads up. We think this kid's gonna run, so that we have an opportunity to perhaps prevent that, because there isn't a lot of places to go. Evanston doesn't have a youth shelter. Homeless girls go to the harbor, boys will go to either Shelter Inc. or the, that's their only option. So, I work really hard to make sure that our Evanston youth do not have to end up work with the homeless youth in Chicago. Human trafficking is real. And when I heard about the 13-year-old living alone, and after school going to Robert Crown, and then when it closed, she'd walk home, the level of vulnerability was just, and so anyway, we work really hard to try and find them in the suburbs if they can't go with family members. We've been really fortunate to get other extended families. So all of that is part of, you know, how we are addressing the community in general, through outreach, but also through our family counseling.
Years ago, you used to, while you used to have a stationary, site of operation in South Evanston, is it considering doing that again, given the fact that the numbers are getting younger and younger for vulnerability for youth?
Really haven't talked about it. That, you know, that while you moved to that location, across the street from the high school, you lost the South Evanston drop-in center. And, yeah, that was a missed opportunity. Haven't talked about it. It's definitely a need.
Since you were dealing with younger and younger youth, agencies are across the country in that field, what, outside of abandonment and lockout, what are some of the other issues in your estimation for this area?
Sure. The bulk of it is lockouts, for sure. Part of our challenge is DCFS goals, whereas, because we were looking into host homes, basically DCFS certified homes where a family in Evanston could have an extra bedroom. The kid would not be in foster care. It would be like they would be there for 48 hours while we had a chance to be working, or get them into the DCFS in 48 hours. Well, DCFS has extended that to 30 days. It's a long time before DCFS gets involved with the youth. And so we're trying to, they just changed that. So we're trying to grapple with, it's also a big ask of a family that isn't a typical foster care family. And so to say, you know, for the month of December, you got this kid. And so, and also the kids that we're talking about are high-risk kids. These are kids who are not, you know, please thank you kids, understandably so.
Yeah.
They have a lot of reasons to be angry, and that behavior is going to carry over most home. So that's one of our challenges too, is now trying to figure out this 30-day thing. So if I place a youth at the harbor, we continue daily contact with the youth. They get to school, that's a long drive. Yeah, displays. And then, work on reunification. And we can file the DCFS report, but not expect them to respond. So it's a lockout. Otherwise, we have to produce some sort of significant evidence of abuse. So, that's created some significant, but most of the kids are working. Usually come around when they run away,
Mhm.
you know, and the parents want them home. They'll come.
Unfortunately, that's not considered significant abuse.
Right.
Right.
in the home.
Abuse.
Significant abuse, that they want to see more abuse than that. They-
Right.
You know, to consider it an emergency situation.
Are we talking tens, hundreds? So we're talking about, you know, I would say the last month, sure. In the last month, we've had about 8 calls. Last 2 months. But those calls, some of them are really simple to resolve. They almost be resolved over the phone. Others are not. And those usually come to the police department, or hospitals.
So over the course of the year, maybe,
I would say over the course of a year, not that many, it would be
No,
under
no,
50,
okay.
yeah.
And that's just the ones that YU is aware of.
yeah.
Right.
Right.
There are other
That
Those
has
are just
slipped-
locked out.
slipped
agencies
past.
that are dealing with homeless youth.
Go and report it to, I'm sure, right? Like no one,
Oh, absolutely.
no agencies at all find out about
Right,
it, like, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Evanston needs a,
I'm curious about these host homes, because I've actually thought about that, not necessarily for youth, but for, older adults or even families in some cases. How successful is that? I'm very curious about that.
you know, I'm in contact with an agency in Southern Illinois, and it's very successful. Well, it has been for 48 hours.
Right.
But it is very successful in that, gives the agency enough time to prevent them from going into DCFS. And the families are given some kind of stipend for taking the youth in.
From DCFS?
No, it comes from the agency. The agency provides a stipend. But that can
What
be
agency? YU or what am I missing?
whatever
What
the, whoever is hosting the host. So if I'm looking, provide host homes for the youth, or then YOU is responsible for providing the stipend. Generally, the stipend would come through some federal fund. That FISB, and so, we would pay the family a stipend. There's been a big legislative change with, and, what was originally happening is DCFS was designing all of the requirements for a host home family. You had to go through all of the same sort of thing you would for foster care, becoming a host home, right? The problem was they were stealing the host homes. So these agencies were providing, right, crazy. So they got them certified as foster families essentially.
Yeah.
And then they would end up placing other kids in those spots that so if we needed that spot, foster care agency took. So,
They would place a foster child
Yeah.
in that, okay, yeah.
right,
Versus,
right.
And so you couldn't use it for the 48-hour
Yeah,
need,
exactly.
Filled.
Right.
In that bedroom.
Yeah.
Right,
Oh,
and
my.
so they changed the legislation, they're rewriting it. And so once that rolls out, then we're gonna take another look.
Can we explore just for a quick moment, the concept of having a youth shelter and what that would look like in this day and time? It may eliminate the competition of a host home, because I can see them stealing it, but, it might address some of the unique issues that youth have as far as being homeless in this, especially in this North Shore area.
You know, it would, I have directed residential programs for homeless youth. And would house youth who are minors and the 18 to 21-year-old population. They would have to have separate entrances.
we put them in the same facility. It would be a comprehensive program that would involve case management. Always the initial focus is family reunification, always.
Number one.
And even if the parents are not good candidates for that, extended families sometimes wonderful candidates for that. Last resort, would be emancipation or, foster care, always. But, those programs are really successful. It also, more than anything, when I worked in a program where we had minors, more than anything, it's that respite. There are sometimes when the parents just want to, you just want to take time out.
Right.
Everybody.
Yeah, everybody needs a break, right? And, that's something for minors, it's really.
Right. Given their challenges, look.
Go ahead. That we have one more.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Last thing I want to say is, the reason I think about host homes is because I'm always trying to think about how do we use existing infrastructure to address needs, because every time we build something, it seems like it costs anywhere from like $20 to $50 million to do it.
It does.
Or more.
Yes.
And, I just don't know how much of that we have left in the community to do that, so I'm always really interested in how do we use existing infrastructure, right? That's why host homes, I think, is a great idea, that if you wouldn't mind reaching out to me separate from this, to explore that more. And then even other facilities that may be underutilized, which is why even Interfaith, I can't remember that name, churches, it's like nobody's there at night, why can't we use it? Gyms even in the community. Just all the facilities we have that are underutilized at certain times, and they could be used to help people. And they exist right now. Many of them already have air conditioner and other things, so it's like, let's try to use that, so we don't have to go out and raise $20-30 million
to upgrade something.
It's tough to find that money.
Yeah, it is.
And there's a lot of competition for it. That's all, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, appreciate your time tonight, thank you. And, last but not least, YWCA Evanston.
Y'all do the wrong thing.
Give me random lottery,
Right, random.
Thank you for your patience.
Was it randomized? How did I come up with the order?
No, yeah, I have notes for like next round to have reverse order and then to do randomized so that the people that are in the middle are not always in the middle.
Yeah, randomized.
Right.
All right.
Let's make it work.
Thank you for hanging out, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
And you get to take home all the tea.
Super excited, like,
You win.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Jennifer Allen. I am the Assistant Director of Domestic Violence Programming. I don't typically attend these meetings. Our Program Director, Hillary June, usually does, or our Grants Manager, Alice, both of whom are out this week. So, I am here and will answer any questions to the best of my abilities. If I don't have an answer, we can get it to you later. So for YWCA Evanston North Shore and our domestic violence programming, I think most folks know us for our emergency shelter program, where we provide a safe place to sleep for folks who are fleeing domestic violence. And while they're in shelter, they receive domestic violence training. This year, we've really started developing our case management program, so being able to let the counselors focus on relationships, developing, folks are looking at like what there's some red flags in relationships, that while our case managers can focus on, okay, you need to get an ID, you need to figure out how to get some resume support or something like that. So that we've really found that supports kind of the counsel, and allows folks to get more support. So we have counseling and shelter management, and then we also have our legal advocacy program. I spent 13 years in that program before I became the assistant director. So in that program is usually our bigger number grabber. Typically in that program we support about 400 people every year. But we have been not at all immune to short staff, so we went from kind of full-time folks to we also have our longer-term housing program, Bridges, which is based in South.
There is no time limit for that, so folks can be there as long as they need to be with the support of the those are kind of our direct services, but we really try to approach the domestic violence kind of epidemic from different prongs, right? So we have our direct services for those who've experienced violence. We also have prevention efforts, so we are in schools throughout Evanston, Skokie area. We do one-off tablings for Loyola University, Northwestern University. And then we also do work with those who have caused harm through our Alternatives to Violence program, which is also based in Evanston. We really kind of holistically approach domestic experience it, but trying to prevent it. Those have been our kind of wraparound domestic violence. So also additionally for like domestic violence survivors, we have our economic advancement team that support with development. We have a white culinary program that supports folks. We have White Tech Lab, which helps people learn how to code, and several of those individuals have been hired by Google or other just big web-based companies. We also have basic money management classes through that to support people and then also resume building. Really try to support folks staying safe, whether it be on that emergency basis or the longer term, also staying safe. So tackling some of the barriers that support work that kind of force people back into those domestic, not having the ability to find employment or not having access to childcare. Really support folks in overcoming those barriers and making sure they're able to.
What are the biggest challenges administratively you're facing right now in terms, like, is it staffing, is it?
Staffing,
Yeah.
100%. So we, like I said, we lost a lot of funding through. So, we were able to sustain people that we currently had employed, but a couple positions that we had open just kind of, so we weren't able to kind of so we're seeing kind of a decrease in the folks we're able to support because we don't have those. But we've had several open positions for a while. It was really great reasons. A couple of our, shelter team went on to grad school and went to law school, but we lost 3 full-time positions. Hired 0 of those so far.
Yeah.
So it's been really difficult. The rest of the DB team has other members are as well. So everyone to be able to still provide quality support to clients, but also.
We'll ask the same question of unique recruitment activities. Have you all expanded recruiting, I don't know, HBCUs, Northwestern, Loyola, National College?
We work with our HR to post on different job boards. We have different newsletters, things like that. The values of experience, our education requirement for most of the available positions is equivalent, and just working with those who have experienced trauma, so we're anyone out, trying to include as many people as.
Can you, real brief, explain the safety net services, like, why is this money needed? Like, everything that you named in here is included in case management, right? So right here, at the bottom, where you're saying the housing placement, you mentioned workforce development, the financial literacy, all of those things are included with case management, aren't they?
So could be, right, so if someone identifies those as needs and things that they need support that we get from, donations, just support. You offering those support. Renee, is your question, why isn't applying under the versus the state?
Be my.
No, I didn't know how to word it either, so.
I'm pulling up your budget. The agencies, most part, select. It could, don't know, and I will certainly follow up, Hillary and tomorrow or
say maybe there's, I don't wanna double, not necessarily the word double dip, but maybe they're already receiving something. Okay, thanks, Rita.
Model,
Mhm.
but
So you got several allocations going per staff member, I guess. Okay, and
No, that's what it is.
I mean, like for you, like how many allocations are you have to report to for your position as assistant director?
No, I'm not quite sure how I'm funded. We all do, so we work with Paylocity and we enter job codes based on like kind of what we do. And then Rochelle usually takes on the responsibility of figuring out what hours for each person. is
Okay, so you
allocated.
don't even have to worry about that.
I don't, yeah, I don't.
Okay, so maybe they, in the back office type of thing. I was just interested working as a case management.
I can say that YOU applies this grant, portion, their DV program director's salary and a portion.
To the, are you talking about, wait,
No,
say that one more
the why, right?
So,
Yeah, I know what you
right,
mean.
so Hillary's salary, a portion of the, Hillary's title is the DV program director, rather than calling people out. So a portion of this grant goes to support the DV program director's salary and a portion to the.
So that's what I needed to hear. So, this portion right here is going towards staff members, correct?
Right. And maybe staff members whose salaries aren't other grants.
Right, okay, so when it comes to the assistant director, not you, but the two positions you just named, are we increasing their salary because of they're doing more work, or are we just increasing it to increase it? Do you know? Is that, because it wasn't in here.
A request to increase.
Because a lot of times, you know, when you request money to include an ED, or an assistant ED, a programs director, anything, they're telling why they want, not necessarily want or need more money allocated to them, as the EDs and the assistant EDs.
Yeah, so the Wise received flat funding in 22 and 20. I'm not saying they don't deserve.
No, that's not what I'm saying
Increase.
either. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
a lot of times you explain that, you know, reason why. If I'm the ED, why I should get an extra 15,000 this year, or an extra 20,000, or 33, or whatever.
I don't know if have they increased salaries? I don't know if they've.
This is a renewal, it's a flat funding, yeah.
Okay, but I still wanna know, like, what is the breakdown of the money, really what it is, and not under case management.
So, I think maybe because we lost funding, I know we had to move people around under different
Right,
grants, so it's possible that our salaries didn't increase, so there would be more money from Evans that came to supplement what money we lost.
Okay. Because I know there was a letter going around, internally about that, there might be some staff cuts, so, you remember that? Yeah. February that was. I'm like, it could be that.
We were able to sustain the existing staff, but like, we had 2 open positions, specifically in legal at the time, and I know we just, those from job boards, we just didn't have the ability to hire anyone new. With those staff, we were able to make.
Because I mean, everybody else, I mean, all right,
I'm
back.
sorry, is your question, because the Y has received flat funding and requested flat funding? When you talk about an increase.
Yeah, I didn't
kinda
understand
wanna-
that, her question didn't mean that, I thought her question meant, how is this $23,000 being allocated,
I just wanted to know how it's being
35,
cut up.
how it's
That's the
being
basic
cut
way
up?
to say it, but I didn't want to say
The
it like that.
DV, the outreach person, whatever.
We should follow up
I
on
was
it, yeah.
just curious with that part.
So it's split in half,
Thank you, Ken.
17.5 goes to each staff member. And taxes and benefits are 22% of the total applied.
So the question, how is the 35,000 being used? What you just said is what I remember you saying before, that it's split between 2 positions.
That's what you first said. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
that's right, so that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this would mean that people, two people.
Yes.
That's what I needed to hear.
Okay.
I like to get cut to the chase and let's get right to the meat.
Yeah.
So you're saying
What's between two
that's gonna
people?
be, cause, so you're in here,
But I heard salaries, like the salary increases, I think is what, even I was confused, but I thought you said at some point salary increases.
I did, and
Yeah.
she corrected me,
Oh, okay.
with the rise or whatever, you said. No, you weren't being mean. So yeah, I wanted to hear that. Did you know that? Did you? I didn't think you did. Okay, because a lot of times they send out the representatives, or different agencies do it, they send a representative and it's going to people that probably sent you, and you just don't know that, and you're, making your ploy for, this funding to go towards the causes that you mentioned.
Cause I would say most of these ads are salaries, right? The vast majority.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for labor.
Like 90%?
Absolutely.
Labor, yeah.
That's the
Labor.
biggest overhead.
Mhm.
I just wanted to make that clear, and like, I want us all to think about that too. I just wanted that to
That's
be
a good point.
I
out
agree.
there
Yeah.
and clear.
It's past 10, I wanna make sure I'm cognizant of everyone's time. Any other questions for YWCA?
I don't have any questions.
All right.
I would just say generally, this isn't the YMCA, but if folks have job postings, that they send it to the committee. Cause I think we have people that may know people and, you know, cause there's a lot of vacancies, and I know we have to have some people in the community that
And
do some of
interns
this
too.
work, especially because they live in Evanston. YWCA is right there. you know.
Right.
If you wouldn't
And a
mind,
lot of people want to work,
absolutely. And
that
it's-
grew up here, want to
Exactly.
work here and give back to the community. It is a
Exactly.
shame that we have to take our diamonds and they have to go somewhere else to shine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If they can shine right here, that would really, help the growth of not only our community, but the individual.
Yeah.
And there'd be,
There's more.
absolutely,
Part of the community.
Yeah, especially when you said it's for some of the positions, just high school, diploma, lived experience, et cetera, like, we should be able to fill those. So if you could send out that to all the organizations, if they have postings, you know, encourage them to send it to us so we can help. That's it.
All right.
Thanks for
Well, thank you so
hanging in
much
there.
for your time tonight, yeah.
and
Thank you.
you still win. All of the tea.
So, meeting members, yes, before we pack up, can I just say briefly, I did have a staff report that I'm not going to present.
Can you email it out?
Yes.
Yeah, I want to talk about the mental health provider program update, so that's the support services funding, that we're doing counseling services. As long as you guys don't feel like staff isn't providing information.
I can no longer hear the room. And I suppose that means the audio is no longer recording the room either. Are any of the attendees able to hear the room at all, either Cindy or Ally?